Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. My name is Frank, and today we're going to be installing a new mainboard in a CR-10S. So for whatever reason this brought you here, that's totally fine. Your mainboard crapped out, you're installing a new silent mainboard, you're upgrading, whatever. This is just going to be how to swap it out. Whatever reason you have, that's totally up to you. For me, this is installing a new Creality silent mainboard, and this is the like 2.2 Creality silent mainboard, and this applies to any of the aftermarket mainboards you can get too. This was like 50 bucks on Amazon, and it has the TMC 2208 smoothers, just to make this print a lot quieter. Now, my CR-10 isn't really too loud, but sitting it on the ground, the foam pads I have helped a little, the stepper dampeners I have helped a little, but it's just, I wanted to take it over that edge. So what I did to test this is I bought two of them, and I was able to upgrade one of my CR-10Ss, which you actually is running behind me, and what you hear right now is my Max, the fans on my Max losing their mind. That's another video and another upgrade, but I wish you could hear the difference, one sitting next to the other. So I'm going to do my best to kind of convey that for this video, and just how much quieter this board actually makes this printer. I've been sleeping on it. I wish I had done this sooner, but when this board showed up, it's actually for an Ender 5 Plus, and it's flashed to be plug and play from Creality for an Ender 5 Plus. It is 100% compatible with the CR-10S, CR-10. I think it's even compatible with an S4 and an S5. But you need to flash the firmware first. Now, if you never flashed firmware, I just made another video that was released before this on how to flash a CR-10S or most Creality bootloader or firmware on the mainboard. Depending on your printer, you might need a bootloader for it, but the CR-10 line, the 10S, the S5, the S4, the V2, it's a bootloader pre-installed, which means it can just run the Arduino program, and you can flash the firmware, whether the mainboard's in your hand or whether it's still installed in the printer. That's what that cool little blue USB cable's for that comes with your printer and plugs into the side. This is exactly what this thing's for. So I already went through and I flashed this. This has TH3D's unified firmware on it. It's all up to date to what I want it to be. So go look at that video on how to flash it. And even if you're installing another factory mainboard, probably better to upgrade your firmware and get the, whatever you can get out of your printer. So let's open up the control box and start seeing what we're looking at. Swapping out your mainboard actually isn't that hard. I'm not even gonna actually unplug everything. I'm just gonna tip the mainboard over. So first thing we're gonna do is get this bottom cover off, and you can do all of this with everything that just came with your printer, all the little Allen keys and everything. So grab an Allen key, and I believe it's the third smallest one. No, second smallest. First thing, never break the torque with the rounded side. Use the actual leverage and the flat side. Go around, break all the torque on all the nuts, and then you can use the round side. If you really have to fight with the round side, go back and loosen it more with the flat side. This is how you strip out nuts, and this is how you end up posting on the Creality pages and the forums saying, oh my god, I stripped out a nut or a bolt, what do I do? And it's probably because you did that, even if you won't admit it. Make sure you save your hardware and you put it in a spot and group it together. I know that all the 5 nuts or bolts that I just took out go to this bottom board, and I moved all my stickers down here for safekeeping. So this is where your power supply is, and if you've seen an Ender 3, it's on the side of it. It's in a bunch of different places. But to get this out, all you have to do is tip it on its side. You want to take these 4 bolts out. This video can also be applied to swapping out your power supply if you need to, because I'm probably never going to make a video on that because it's actually pretty easy. It's good to do this on the side. This way when the power supply actually drops, it only drops like 1/4 of an inch, and then it doesn't risk falling out or messing up any wires. 4 removed, put them somewhere safe. So there's a little tab down here. You kind of have to just maneuver the power supply out and over it, and then you can kind of swing this out of the way. And there's a good amount of slack in there. Don't really pull on it too hard. It's probably best if you can find something to put behind this to kind of support it up. There we go. So that's supported with the box. And this is actually what the inside of your printer looks like. Mine's getting a little dusty, but here's your control panel. Here's the cooling fan that actually keeps everything inside here cool. Mine's getting a little dusty, there's your main board with all your wires. There's another fan, there's your power switch. There's a MOSFET that actually helps reroute power from the main line coming into your printer so you don't burn anything out, and that has a lot to do with your heated bed. So that's a good upgrade, and that's just, it's already comes in the printer anyway. As you can see, there's a lot of room for activities in here, but this is what we want to remove, and there's a bunch of ways you can go at this. You can take very meticulous care and label and put sticky notes and tape on everything, and you can cut the zip ties that hold the cables over here. I'm a little more barbaric with this because I'm comfortable with it, so I'm gonna do my best to not pull anything I don't have to out, and then just do the whole swap in here and plug everything in. So let's get started. The biggest thing I can suggest to you right now is take pictures. Take pictures of where every wire goes, how it's routed, all these colors. Take pictures of it all. This way, as you put it back together, you're not like, oh man, where did this go? Your board might actually come with hot glue holding some of the connectors and plugs on. This is the only one in here that actually had a sufficient amount on it, and this is just to the control panel. So if you pull well enough, it should pop off, but you can also get some pliers to help you out. So I got these two out, and they're actually exactly the same ribbon cables. So as long as you remember which one went to which, the one on the far left went to the top one, and then the one on the bottom right. So this is one circuit, and this is one circuit. So you kind of just pull them out, or you can kind of just fold them over and leave them off to the side like I'm gonna do. So that's just gonna sit there now. So everything on your board, and we can come here and look at our new main board and kind of line it up. Everything's actually labeled, and we'll flip this around. And you can see you have your X stepper control, your Y, your Z1, your Z2, your extruder 0 or your extruder 1. And technically we're going to be plugging into extruder E0, and we don't have dual extruders. They're all labeled nice and simply. And you can, it's hard to see in the video, but this is your X, this is your Y, this is your Z, these are your Z stops and everything. So everything's actually labeled. It kind of makes it a little idiot proof. You have your fans over here, you have your positive and negative for two different fans, and one of them gets plugged in. And then here you have your thermistors for your heated bed and your nozzle. These are just basically your thermometers. And conveniently inside here, they're also labeled. E for your extruder, both your Z's, which are actually interchangeable, so it doesn't really matter where these ones go because your Z's are always going to move in unison anyway. And then your Y, and then your X. So I'm unplugging these. I'm going to move these and let them sit kind of around the fan. Try to get a better angle here. I'm going to just move them to the side and let them sit on the fan. And then I took a picture so I know this is my fan power supply. So I'm just going to pop that out, and I'm going to wrap this back around here. And what's that leave us? That leaves us with all of our end stops, our XYZ trigger end stops. So I can unplug those because there's no way these could go into any other socket except these three. You just need to make sure you put them properly back into the right labels. So those can also get bunched up over here with no problem. And I'm pretty sure this one right here is your runout sensor. It's the only one that goes into this triple over here. So again, that one's kind of idiot proof, so we can move that away. 99% sure it's the runout sensor. And now we have our thermistors. So these ones you got to be careful of because they aren't labeled in any way. So what I'll do is I'll pull one a little bit longer, and that's my farthest one. And this way, as it gets pushed back, as I unplug it, it's going to want to stay longer and all the way back here. And then you have your shorter one sitting right in front of it. So there's very apparently two different lengths to these, so they're going to be kind of hard to mess up. But feel free to label them with some tape if you want. And then I took a picture of this color code, so it's black, or it's red, black, yellow, white. And then those are just going to get folded back. And again, these two, the longer two, because there's one immediately behind it that has the exact same color setup. So don't confuse them. And what you can actually do is maybe twist them together so you know these ones go together. And then you can unplug the bottom one and move it out of the way. So those are all good. Now we have to unscrew these contacts. And you really want to pay attention to what's what here. And you want to make sure that these yellows go back in the same spot. Then you have your black, and then you have your red. And then right hidden over here, right down there, is actually the main power coming in from your power supply. So that's obviously positive, negative, and that's very easy to deal with. A little screwdriver. So we're just gonna pop those out. They should loosen a pretty good amount, almost get them flush to the top, enough to pull the wires out. Okay, so I'm not gonna pull these wires out just yet. I'm gonna leave them in there and into the sockets, and we're gonna go and get the Allen keys, the bolts removed for the entire board. So that one's too big. It's your second smallest Allen key that came with your kit. So let's see, we have one in the corner over here. Now, unfortunately, it's a little hard to get the wrench in there, so you got to be really careful not to strip these out. Yeah, this one's way tighter than my other one was. Okay, that one's out. Dude, you hear that snap? These ones are way tighter than my other CR-10S. Be careful with these. If yours are this tight, this will not be fun if you strip one out. All right, the board's already loose. Okay, so that's it. So real quick, before these yellows come out, I'm going to do something very similar I did before. I'm going to pull one out and kind of bend it over to the side and get it tucked around and just get the top yellow out of the way. So I know that the only other yellow that's left is right there. And we can lift our board out. So now that's out. We got all 4 screws out. Our old board's out. A little dusty, but not too bad. So we're going to make sure we save that one for a rainy day in case we ever need to convert back. This would be a good time to kind of clean out and wipe out any dust that's been building up near your fans. And mine has a little bit. And here's our nice new shiny board that's already flashed. We can go and drop this in. Now, my other CR-10S actually had a little bracket spacer underneath this that I had to line up. This one doesn't for some reason, so that's very interesting on why one had it and one didn't. But so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to line up. There's the 2 little power wires that sit in here. And actually, as I'm saying this, I realize I never loosened these contacts. So go ahead and pre-loosen all of these. You can actually see it kind of open up. Okay, we're all opened up. And I'm going to try to get the 2 power wires in here. And in case you forgot, positive is on this side, negative is on this side. Positive on the left, and it's marked on the board, so it's really easy. So those are going to be the first 2 I try to slide in there. And honestly, tweezers would go a real long way right now, but I'm kind of being lazy. I should be able to do this. And I didn't bolt my main board down yet because I'm actually using the board itself to push the wires in and get it in the right position and verify that the wires are even in there and tight. These are not wires you want to leave too loose with the risk of popping out because they're coming right from your main board or your power supply, and that can just be a bad day. So you can just make sure that they're in there nice and tight, give them a kind of a little bit of tug, and those are solid, good to go. Now, since those were the kind of the difficult ones, I'm going to actually screw the board down now. Okay, my board's in there nice and tight. My 2 power wires are still in there good, so I'm going to try to fish in my other ones. And since I moved that yellow out of the way, I know for a fact that the yellow doesn't want to go into that other one, so that helps a lot. And now I have a little bit more playroom with these ones to kind of hold them in while I screw this down. Sorry if my gross hands are in the way. After you get all the wires in, just make sure you look at the symbols again. There's no harm in triple, quintuple checking, making sure you have them in the right spot. Because I promise you, the one time you don't check, after years and years of working as a mechanic and maintenance, and the one time you don't check is the one time you're gonna mess something up. It's just the rules of the world. Okay, so all my power wires are in. That's good. They're nice and tight. And now, since I twisted these ones around, I know that this one wants to sit right here in the back slot, and then just plug that in, and then these 2 are twisted together, and then the red one was all the way at the top here. So I can untwist these, and it's a little bit longer, so it should be pretty easy to get it there. So that one goes there, and then the yellow and white one lock in here. Okay, so those ones are back into place. And now what we can do is grab these ones, and again, we had pulled this top one out and extended it, so we know that this one goes in the middle, and then this one goes in the top. And it's all coming together. Look at that. So now we can start pulling these back out, and this was for our run out sensor, and this one went into this triple up here, so we can plug that right in. Okay, and now we need to plug in our 3 doubles. So these are our 3 doubles, and what you can do is instead of trying to look in there and read the board, you can use your old board as a reference key to see where it goes. So there we go. So we have our 1, 2, 3, and so we have our 1, 2, 3 X, Y, Z. There you go. So X, Y, Z. Perfect. Look at that. That just looks beautiful. Cool. And now for the next ones, we can start kind of just undoing these. And these are all of our extruder. These are all of our stepper motor controllers. So we have our extruder, we have our Z, we have our other Z, our X, and our Y. So let's try to find our X first, because it's actually first in line. And it should be the shortest one, but it's not. Okay, so our X is the first one. Our X goes there, and let's throw in our Y, and then our two Z's, which again, they kind of move in unison. If you're a stickler and you want to put them back in the exact same spot, that's totally fine, but they're always going to move in unison anyway. And if your board came with only one Z plug, but you have a CR-10S or S4, S5, that means they sent you the wrong board. There's ways around it, but I would just send it back. And then our last one's E for extruder. And this one went into E0. That's it. Our board's in, okay? All you have to do is plug in the power fan again, the plug for the fan, which kind of ran in a really weird fashion. But from here, it's just reassembling it. And I'll walk you through a little bit of that, but if you made it this far, you should be able to reassemble it just fine. Swapping main boards are not as scary as a lot of people think. For one reason or another, you're probably going to have to change one eventually. So we can plug our monitor or control panel back in and give everything a nice little push down. Make sure everything's good. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Compare it to the picture you took. Make sure everything lines up, and that's it. So our new silent main board's in, our old main board's out. Again, I would save that, you know, just in case something ever goes wrong with this one. Or maybe you flashed it wrong, or maybe it just isn't compatible. That's in, and then I would put the power supply back in the same way I got it out, but maybe check all your connections, make sure nothing pulled out while you were moving it around. That definitely wouldn't be a bad practice to get into. Flip it on its back, and then you can press it right in. So I'm just gonna go through, put all the screws back in, and fire this thing up. That's really it. And then we'll do a little functionality check to make sure everything's moving in the right axis. So hang on. All right, guys, so it's back together, and you can actually, this is my other CR-10S running currently. I think you can hear my CR-10 Max above me. This thing makes like no freaking noise. The loudest thing on it is actually the cooling fan on the side. And there's no vibration, there's no noise, there's absolutely nothing. And yes, I know I'm about to run out of filament. I got another one loaded, and probably gonna swap that while I'm recording. So this one's going, it's working perfectly fine. So let's actually power this one up for the first time. And I hope I hooked everything up right. So there's the new firmware revision, and we know it all worked. Jarvis is ready, and let's auto home for the first time. And you know what, for funsies, let's move everything as far away as possible. All right, everything seems to be operating, and what we can do so we don't bust anything, we can just move our axis manually first, so our X moves in the right direction. This way, if we try auto home and it goes in the wrong direction, we know. So my bed moves, that's good. And then let's move our Z, and our Z moves. I think the biggest noticeable difference with the silent boards is the Z axis. So let's auto home. It is pathetically quiet. That's it. No, that was a little unlevel there, but you know what, we'll live. It's just sickening how quiet this is. I can't even get over it. I'm gonna disable the steppers again. We're gonna do that again. The loudest thing is the end stops clicking, and just absolutely wonderful. I'm kind of sad I waited so long to actually try out silent main boards, because it's just ridiculous how quiet they are. I think my next step's going to be is actually removing the stepper dampeners I have on the X and Y axis, and just seeing how much of a difference they make. I'll probably remove it from this one, because right now, once again, they're perfect clones of each other, except for one lone Z brace just still holding on for dear life. But same extruder, same dampeners, same main boards. So now I can test to see by removing the stepper dampeners if it makes any difference at all, if I can hear it, or if the silent board just really just washed away all of that with the TMC smoothers. And that kind of does it for this. The main board swap was a success. Everything works. Now I could also go through and preheat and make sure everything's heating properly, and I would let this go through a full heat cycle just to make sure my temperature sensors are reading. And I did lose my old preset heat temperatures, so I just have to change that out. But it seems to be reading just fine, and each one's telling the right one what to do. I'll let that heat up and it should go good. And that's it. So guys, that does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope it helped you guys get a little bit of a better understanding of how to install a main board, and maybe it's not as scary, you know, seeing somebody do it kind of in the real, who's not some, I don't know, fancy workshop or something. I know that really helps bring a lot of tutorials down to earth for me when it just, I don't know, it just looks like something that someone's doing in just a random room in their house. It really helps me kind of relate to that, and I hope I'm able to kind of translate that and emulate that for you guys. If you guys like these type of tutorials with like these upgrades and me just kind of showing you things about my printers, just drop a comment that would kind of, you know, key me into like, hey, you know, these are receptive for people. If you haven't already, if you could subscribe, it'd be really cool. I want to keep helping people with this type of stuff. I like teaching this stuff. And if you want to be more interactive in the, you know, cosplay or 3D printing community and the kind of the mix of the two, I just started a Discord channel. There's a link down below. It's free to join. Sign up, talk to nerds. There's people in there way smarter who've been doing this way longer than me. So there's a lot of good information if you're, you know, just starting out, or if you want to help share some of your information and kind of like add to the community and stuff. That'd be awesome. I just also did start a Patreon account. There's a link for that down below. If you're interested in any way in supporting me beyond just, you know, views and subscribing, take a look. If it's not for you, totally ignore I said anything. That's totally fine. I understand. Thank you so much for everything. This is just like so much fun. I love making these tutorials. So thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.